With the arrival of the Transcontinental Railway, Vancouver has ballooned from a sawmill port town to a metropolitan center, and in 1912 it ushers in its first newspaper with the Vancouver Morning Sun. The Titanic sinks, and a public memorial service is held at the Vancouver Opera House in aid of widows and orphans of the seamen of the Titanic. The first ever professional hockey game is played and is enjoyed by the crowd at the Patrick Brothers Denman Arena, the largest of its kind in the world. The Vancouver Millionaires beat the New Westminster Royals 8-3. Driving was still a rare experience for most Vancouverites. The streetcars and interurban tram were the more usual forms of public transportation. Also on the busy streets are the newly arrived Jewish peddlers, trundling through with their pushcarts, on foot, horse, and wagon, and even by sleigh. Peddling enabled these recently arrived immigrants to support their families and establish roots in a new and strange country. Among this new group of foreigners is Joseph Yochlowitz, whose overriding goal to make it in this new world would one day far exceed his wildest expectations for the generations to follow. He is soon joined by his 13-year-old son, Daniel, who will have to forego his education to help his father with the family business. The early days on the road with his father are vividly imprinted in his mind 60 years later.
We'd have to get up very early in the morning. We'd have to feed the horse, clean him, water him, get him ready, and then we'd have our breakfast. And we'd usually start out around 7 o'clock. And we'd canvas and prepare our material, load it up. By the time we got home, sometimes it'd be way after midnight.
In 1935, 33-year-old Daniel Yochlowitz is ready to invest in his own scrap metal shop and sets out to do just that. Thanks to the matchmaking of a mutual friend, Daniel is introduced by correspondence to Molly Goldstick in January 1936.
My dad worshipped my mother, and he never argued with my mother. They got along really, really well together. And I guess my mother was the more calming part of the family, Whenever my dad and I got in an argument, she would say, "Okay, that's enough," and kind of settle things down. Yeah.
Well, my dad, I think he was very strong. He was like a rock in that you could always depend upon him. I knew he would always make a living. I had the utmost of faith in him in that way. And he's an exceptionally hard worker.
In the summer holidays, I used to work down there, and I enjoyed it. It was exciting. It was all physical labor.
We sell salvageable goods like pipe and plate. We tore down plants in the oil refineries and sawmills, and some of the equipment terrible. It used to be pretty dangerous working with some of that equipment. The shear, they pop out, you get hard steel, kill it.
My dad was very tough to work with. So I guess he taught me a lot of good lessons about how to handle myself in business. He had to be pretty tough.
For over a decade, Mel and Harold worked alongside their dad to build the business. And as the 60s drew to a close, ABC was well on its way to becoming Western Canada's largest diversified recycling company.
My dad always had the big ideas and took the chances. He was the true entrepreneur of the family, I believe. For example, it was his idea to purchase the property in Burnaby, the 10-acre property that we're on.
This property would prove key to ABC's successes in the years ahead. But first, Harold would have to find a way to convince Daniel of the need to move from their rental lot in Falls Creek to the outskirts of the city.
When he went on his holiday, he went away for a couple months. I moved all the stuff off of there, moved it into Burnaby. And when he came back, he was very upset with me. He said, "Oh, you turned all my good merchandise into junk," and he wouldn't talk to me for about a year. He was pretty angry. But then after a while, we relented and we started the business started to grow out in Burnaby, and we started getting into some pretty good lucrative deals.
I think he had a vision and maybe a nerve to implement changes. He was willing to take the chance more than my dad.
When I first started to work with my dad, that was my condition. I said, we have to have a big piece of property, and we have to have a rail spur that comes in there. That will allow us to sell our steel anywhere in North America, you might say.
With that newfound ability, ABC was able to break the stranglehold that the middlemen had previously had on the market. Now, they were able to supply the largest steel mill in Vancouver directly with their scrap steel. This was a big turning point for ABC, now stepping up to be a major player in the business. The 1970s were good for ABC Recycling. With the price of steel going up, it was a booming time. ABC made the shift from salvage to scrap metal and took the risks needed to buy the necessary equipment to set up the yard. Daniel handed over the reins to Harold, who took on the day-to-day leadership of the company, while Mel kept a friendly rapport with customers, working the scale in the front. ABC truly became a recycling scrapyard, and that's when they decided to change their name to ABC Recycling.
You know, the 80s, we were highly leveraged to the banks, and interest rates went to 22%, almost knocked us out of business. And we had some few bad apples working for us, and the competition was trying to kill us, you know. So everything kind of, and my dad passed away in 1986, so everything kind of came to a head, and it was very, very trying times.
It was at this crucial point that Helen came to the aid of her brothers to help with the accounting, but more to give moral support.
I could see that there were things that were really, really, really bad. So it was just sort of getting rid of some of the helping Harold and Mel get rid of some of the graft, I guess.
I think since I was a young kid, working summers, I never thought there was an alternative to the family business. Seriously, I never thought about trying to go into another business.
When he first came is at the time when the business was really in trouble. And he was just out of school. He took a business management course at PCIT. And when he came, he had a list of 20 conditions. That he approached him with, he said, "These are my conditions when I come to work in here."
Did I come in with a big list? There was a lot of things that I saw that were happening in the business that I didn't like. And there was a couple individuals that were taking advantage of the family and my dad. And I felt that there had to be a lot of changes if we were going to be successful.
And I read them over and I said, yeah, I agree with them all. And we reacted to all of them and took care of all those conditions.
He put everything he had back into the business. If the business was going to go under, he was going to go under with it. And he wanted to make sure that the people that supported the business and himself through that time were going to get paid back.
There's not one customer that got stuck with us without getting paid. So I'm very proud of that too. David helped facilitate that.
David quickly proved himself as an effective strategist while learning to work together with Harold as they moved the company out of one of the most challenging periods in its history.
We started cultivating some of the people that were really good values and abilities in our company. Can do, we took him into the office. We started to get him going on the trips that we were taking to China as a translator, and then he took over our sales, and then we developed the brokerage business with Ken. We started to build on our value system again, and the company started to grow, and our debt started to go down, and to the point where today we have no debt, and we're able to grow with our own money.
Within a decade, Harold would step back from the day-to-day operations as David took over the leadership of ABC, changing the direction of the company with new ideas and a team approach.
David is a real hard worker, and so by example he showed he would be there. I don't know what time he arrived in the morning, and he would stay till whatever time. He would come in on Saturdays. He was working. He wasn't just showing up and walking the yard, and I think that was big. I think people saw that, they respect him. I think he's a very good manager.
10 years ago there was only 2 locations. Now we have 6, 3 locations and 3 partnerships. He's taken this company leaps and bounds in years ahead under his direction. He's done a great job in leading.
He took our business to another level, and we've been growing and growing and growing, and he's doing a very, very good job for us.
At this point, I'm the head of the company, but it's all of us together that are achieving this. When I'm up there receiving an award, this is an award for everybody for everything that we've done.
I think it's something like 10% of family businesses survive to the 4th generation. So we are currently a 4th generation family business, and it's challenging to run a business, any business, but then let alone a family business. You've got a lot of added elements and complexities that if you don't manage that properly, I think that's probably a large part of the reason why a lot of family businesses don't survive from generation to generation. We've tried to be quite proactive and put a lot of sort of measures in place and policies and procedures and just like structures so that we can, the goal is that we will carry on hopefully to the 5th, maybe 6th generation.
One of those measures was the hiring of Francine Carlin of the Business Harmonizer Group to facilitate ABC's family meetings.
Well, we have Francine, who is our facilitator, and we have our meetings. If we do have problems, we'll bring it out, talk about them. Just keep in touch with each other and make sure everybody's happy and we're doing the right things.
One dividend of the family meetings with Francine was the revision of the family shareholders agreement.
Took us 2 years to put it together, so we're all on page. This is the way our business is going to run. It's a family business, and we have all these different rules in place to make sure everybody lives with that. It's to protect the business and protect the family.
Another outcome were the family values that have served the Yochlowitzes so well over the generations were now committed to paper.
Well, we do have family values like being honest with each other, our integrity is important.
Well, to be charitable, share with our employees.
And ABC shares their good fortune with their clients and employees. The family honors the Jewish faith's practice of tzedakah, of giving back to the community, a practice that Daniel and Molly held dearly.
We work pretty hard at trying to continue their legacy of giving back. That's a really important part of the way we do business and why we do it, not just make a profit.
ABC has an incredible reputation. They're a long-time business. They're a family business. They're very involved with the community. I think they've been the employer of record for United Way for a number of years in a row. The Kidney Car program is an auto recycling program. We receive an amount for the scrap metal, and the donor receives a tax deduction for that amount. And we receive many, many, many cars.
I don't think these big public companies, especially the ones outside of our country, really care about our communities or our people. So I think we have a long-term vision to keep growing in the communities, keep growing with the people that if people come into our organization and they're willing to give of themselves to us, we will give back to them and help them develop. So that's a philosophy that we want to keep. I think the big public companies, it's all about the bottom line, and that's all that matters, really.
Merry Christmas!
The most proud thing I am of the business is that we're just about the only scrapyard left of all the private big ones that were at the time when I first got into running the business. They all kind of either went broke or were taken over by other companies or just disappeared.
Well, I think my grandfather would be very proud of how far we've come, what we're building, and especially that we're doing it, retaining the values that he put in place, that we're doing it the right way.
Oh, they'd be very proud of me today. My dad be jumping 10 feet high.
My dad would say, oh my God, yeah, they've done okay. I'm sure he'd be pretty proud.
My dad would, I think he'd be very proud, and I think he'd be really proud to see his granddaughter there.
Pretty amazed, actually. I think they'd be really proud to see some of their grandchildren actively working in the business and all of their grandchildren involved in terms of the business family.
Say I was lucky I got 2 sons that came into the business, and that was very fortunate because it's going to keep the business going.
And maybe the commitment gets more and more as as the generations go. So I hope so. I think it gets stronger in some ways.
I see a great future for them. I mean, they're sitting in something that's going to be like a dream come true.